Hey everybody, Steven here. Don't trust this man. I'm the man. I'm the man and don't trust. I'm not the man. I am the man and don't. That's funny. That's funnier to me than it will be to anybody viewing this video. That was funny to me. Don't. I am the man and don't trust this man. Don't trust me. I had a bunch of different things bouncing around in my head. I didn't really want to talk about any of them with you. No offense. It's been an interesting season in my life, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, last episode. I can't remember. I really feel like God is sort of at work. I'm under construction. Caution, God at work. And I think part of that season is a reticence on my part to sort of do this. Because I don't necessarily want to every week just sort of get in front of this camera and sort of emotionally or spiritually or whatever sort of just bleed on camera. That said, one of the things that, as I've talked about before, that I really do believe is I think one of the most powerful things in some of our struggles is to remember that we're not alone. It doesn't fix everything. It doesn't make the problem go away. It doesn't diminish our pain necessarily, but it can, I think, help us to endure or help us to remember that we're not crazy or that those things that we feel are real when we remember or realize for the first time that someone else is experiencing it too. It is in some sense, it's one aspect of the power of the cross. I was thinking about this just prior to hitting the old record button. I was thinking about how over the course of today, even just this day, things have happened in a way that make me confused about the behavior of God. It's put much more simply, there are times when God doesn't make sense. Life doesn't make sense. Say it however you want to say it, but for me, I say it that way because, well, let me back up one step even. Let me back up one step even further. That feels like not a great sentence. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe God still talks to people? That's a thing, right? So, like, there's a denomination, United Church of Christ. One of their slogans is or was, God is still speaking. I loved that. I don't know if that meant the same thing to me as it did or does to them, but I loved it. And in the traditions I've worked in, the idea of God talking or speaking to people is fairly active. And I think across a variety of Christian faith traditions slash, that's not right, Christian faith. Anyway, inside Christendom, there are a few schools of thought regarding the idea of God talking to his people, her people. One school of thought would simply be that God has done all the talking that needs to be done through the life of Christ as recorded in Scripture and in Holy Scripture. So, Bible's done, closed canon, you're good to go. What did God say about that? It's in the Bible. Oh. What did God say about Wi-Fi? It's in the Bible. And then there is another strain of thought, man, I think the school of thought would have been better. There's another line of thinking that says that God, in fact, does communicate. God talks to his or her people through a variety of ways that are extra biblical. Anyway, I think I took too long to explain all that. When I say I don't understand God's behavior today, I've been praying for one thing, and the exact opposite thing happened today. And I thought to myself, God, what are you doing? Seriously? I mean, it's fine. Fine if it's a no. But if the answer is the opposite, and it made me think about how when we don't really understand what God's doing, what do we do? And I think for me, I have to remember who God is and the witness of Scripture and the witness of past experience in my life to remember who God is and what his nature is or her nature is. That God truly is good. That God has proven to act on my behalf and for my betterment throughout my life. I don't always understand that to be true in any given moment, but looking backward, I can see that God has, as I and many people around me might say, has been for me and not against me. Brings up the problem of pain and suffering, doesn't it? In the Bible, God doesn't seem to be concerned with explaining, giving us an explanation for why suffering occurs. And there are those with better minds and deeper intellects who have tackled this problem. I'm sure I've talked about this idea before, theodicy. And as I revisit the subject now in my mind, I am reminded that God does not tell us why suffering happens exactly in the way we'd want. He does, in fact, tell us and show us that He is with us in our suffering. And then, whatever this does to your theology or your hermeneutics, or however you would say it, that we serve a God who has suffered. We serve a God who has known what it is to feel loss. It's weird to even say, isn't it? It's weird for me to say just because I don't think I've ever said it that way before. He experienced abandonment, and He experienced pain and suffering. He experienced in those moments what it is to not understand why God does or doesn't do things sometimes. And so this evening, I found myself thinking, God, why did you not? Or why did you? What? I have no answer. I stand on the cusp of a new day without a good answer for what I've experienced on this day. And so I ask Jesus to be with me in my confusion and in my lack of understanding, because I believe He knows what that feels like. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I don't know why I spent 44 minutes trying to talk to you about what it means for God to talk to people. That's probably a whole separate episode. And ultimately, one last note, and I'll finish my rambling for the evening. It's all about control, as in I have none. That's the great hope and the great frustration of being a follower of Christ. Control is out the window. Now, here's the reality. As a human on this planet, you don't have control no matter what you believe. Control is a lie. I believe it's a myth. Beyond that, I believe truly free people don't need to controls. Truly free people don't need to control things, events, or other people. Yeah. God doesn't always make sense. But I absolutely believe God is with us in all things. Until we're together again, be well.